Hello and welcome to the Secrets of Stargate, where we talk about hidden meanings and deeper layers found in the Stargate movies and series, including SG-1, Atlantis, Universe, and more. I'm Father Cory Sticha. With me today are Lisa Jones and Victor Lambs. Howdy, Lisa.
Hey, Father Cory.
Howdy, Victor.
Howdy do, Father Cory.
Before we begin, first of all, you can watch our videos now. We are not just doing a static image, but you can see our smiling faces or frowny faces or upset faces, depending on what we think of that particular episode. So you can see that at youtube.com/StarQuestMedia. You can also join us on our Discord server, where we're having great discussions about Secrets of Stargate and all our shows. You can find that at sqpn.com/Discord. Finally, go to sqpn.com/merch and get your t-shirts, mugs, and many, many more. Today, we're discussing The Curse, the 13th episode, great numbering, from the fourth season of Stargate SG-1. Daniel Jackson finds out that his former archaeology professor, Dr. David Jordan, died in a lab accident, so he returns to Chicago for the funeral. There he runs into a couple of his former colleagues, including rekindling a relationship with Dr. Sarah Gardner. The other colleague, Dr. Stephen Rayner, is less happy to see him. Dr. Jordan and his associates were examining a bunch of artifacts that had been lost at sea, including 2 jars with Egyptian and Goa'uld writing and an amulet which was stolen by Stephen. Though the Osiris jar is lost in the accident, Daniel is able to take the Isis jar to the SGC, where it's discovered to be a stasis pod for a Goa'uld symbiote. Stephen takes the amulet back to the original temple in Egypt, followed by Daniel, Major Sam Carter, and Dr. Janet Fraser. However, it's revealed that Osiris, the symbiote in the other jar, has already infected Sarah. Despite the best efforts of Sam, Janet, and Daniel, Osiris is able to recover her hand device and spaceship to escape the planet. So, Lisa, what do you think of this one?
Okay, you know I'm not usually a fan of Daniel-based episodes.
Mm-hmm.
This one I like. So, I know. It's a good look at a background story. We've not touched on his career before this. And Actually, I think you see a lot of growth in Daniel, in his character and his development throughout this episode. And then I hate to say that I really enjoyed the way they didn't have the team together and they kept bouncing back and forth. And even though Jack and Teal'c weren't really around, it worked for me. And I wish, though, that I know we get to see Osiris again, but I really wish we'd gotten to see Stephen. He would have been a nice replacement for Dr. Rothman.
Oh yeah,
that would have been a nice addition to the universe.
Exactly. So. How about you, Victor?
Yeah, it's a fine episode. It's better than I remembered it being. It's one of those. They do it again on Atlantis. A member of the Stargate program goes home and can't talk about what the super important things that they're doing. So everybody just assumes that they ran off and abandoned them. It's kind of a sci-fi trope. The special person goes home but can't talk about it, and everybody just assumes that they ran away. There's a lot I like here. It's it's written very well. There's some good humor put in there, and there's some good twists along the way too, where we're kind of led to believe that Dr. Steve is the Goa'uld, but it turns out at the end it's Dr. Sarah. Mm-hmm. So lesson learned there, like don't act like a jerk all the time, or when there's a Goa'uld on the loose, everybody will think it's you. So that's the moral of the story. And it's a good episode.
No, I agree. It is good. And it kind of an origin story for Daniel a little bit, because we find out that this is what he was working on when he started promoting his crackpot theories that the pyramids were actually made by aliens, which, spoiler, they were, at least in the Stargate universe. We don't know so much about here yet, but we get kind of his background, and we get some of the people he worked with, and of course I did kind of tickled me as I was doing the summary. You got Dr. Daniel Jackson and Dr. David Jordan. You got DJ, Dr. DJ, 2 Dr. DJs.
Oh, funny.
But it's a good one. I didn't know which story it was when I saw, okay, The Curse is the next one.
Yeah.
Which one is that? And it's like, oh yeah, it's this one. It's where Cyrus shows up, although we don't see her for a while. if I remember, it's a couple of seasons before they bring her back or something like that. It's not quickly, but yeah, no, I enjoyed it. And I liked getting into the story itself. We had Sarah, who was played by Anna Louise Plowman, who's always an actress I enjoy seeing. I like her work. She was in the first season of New Who, the story Dalek. She was the assistant to the guy who had all the relics, the alien relics, including the Dalek, and she's the one that took over when he got sent off to a place that starts with M, if I remember how it went. So. Yeah, so that's where Doctor Who fans will recognize her from that. But she's one of those actors you see all over the place. She works a lot, she does a lot of different roles and things like that. So, but we do start out with Daniel Jackson finding out that this through a tabloid that they're having fun with the tabloids this season. That Teal'c is really enjoying apparently. And it made me think. Too, like before Facebook, like nowadays, if one of your professors that you and your friends liked passed away, you'd probably find out about it through Facebook or something. Mm-hmm. But before that, like, how would you? I don't know how plausible it is that he could find out about it through a tabloid and still make it there in time for the funeral. But lots of like watching this back, lots of really interesting like technology notes. I think this is one of the first episodes where they rely on, or at least point to, the use of cell phones. As kind of like a story point or something. They have those Motorola, I think like StarTacs or something, but that's what it looked like.
But it's one of the first ones where you're watching them or you're seeing them use that, and you kind of think, oh yeah, when you watch old TV and they don't have that, they have to all search for payphones and stuff, and you kind of think about how cell phones and smartphones have really affected the way that we can tell stories now.
Well, yeah, they even mentioned cell phones, mobile phones, and it's like, oh yeah, I mean, they were readily available in the year 2000 when this came out. So it was, but it is interesting, like you said, we've not seen them use them before. They'd use alien mobile phones basically, stones. But not, and their radios or walkie-talkies, but not that's right. Cell phones, Of course, I like how Jack's like, there won't be mobile phone coverage out there. You won't be able to reach us. And of course, Teal'c takes his with.
Right. Yeah. And they seem surprised. Like, why would we have that? You would think there's a phone in the cabin or, And this, I think, is our first sighting of Jack's cabin. And the lake with no fish in it.
Yeah. We get that really great exchange. Jack's like, we'll be unavailable, inaccessible. And General Hammond goes, incommunicado. And Jack goes, Minnesota, sir. And Hammond's like, I stand corrected. So very, very funny exchange there.
And I guess the first time we watched it, you're probably thinking, is he going to get, where's Thor? What's going to happen? Because every time they try to go fishing so far, and there's been several of them, something happens.
And they referred to that as, Thor will have to beam me up,
and nothing actually happened.
And if it's a Tok'ra, don't bother. So he's throwing shade at the Tok'ra there.
Yeah, exactly.
So. But I did like that we got to see what all their little hobbies was. Jack finally got someone to go fishing with them, and it's Teal'c. Carter was again a no-show. Didn't want to visit the home of the loons.
Instead, she was working on an old Indian motorcycle, which was
motorcycle,
cool.
Yes, with Siler.
That was pretty. Siler. I wouldn't mind having that, but
Well, and Hammond even made a reference to the problem. It's something about giving them leave, but they don't actually leave.
Right.
Yeah, we've talked about that before.
Yeah, unlike Jack's the only one who really wants to, and every time it happens, he wants to go on leave. Something happens, because there's the line. The one with Thor where he got beamed up as he was trying to leave, where he goes, the thing about leave is you have to actually leave.
Yeah.
Right.
Now there were a few callbacks to the movie too in this. Like, do you notice when Daniel grabbed that tabloid, he grabbed it from the top and snatched it like he did the paper.
Oh,
in the movie. Yeah, he grabbed and snatched it, and then there was I had something else written down was that he had said about that was referring to the movie.
Stephen makes a reference to what they said in his conference.
Oh,
about how the world isn't ready to.
Yeah. Well, he also talked about how he was giving a lecture to an empty room, and Daniel says, "Well, it was full when I started."
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And Stephen's comment was something like, that the world is not ready for to know about aliens, or I can't remember what it was exactly, but it was very close to how the what was it, the reporters or the other professors were questioning him in the conference.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was nice.
And then Daniel actually said that is, I've got information that the world's not ready for.
Mm-hmm.
Saying that to Sarah.
To Sarah, yeah.
People, but it's me. It's kind of cool. And you can imagine that though. He's like, I want to tell you. I would love to tell you everything I've seen and done, but it's like, I can't because the government won't let me, and the world's not ready for it.
Yeah. Actually, I didn't love that because I thought it's almost like whetting her appetite. Like, oh, there's so much, and you're in the same line of work as I am, and so I know how much you'd love it, but yeah, I can't tell you.
Well, that's why she even says, like, I wish you had never come back at all then if you're not going to tell me, really. But at that point, she's a Goa'uld, so she already knows it.
That's true.
And we do get a really good line when he's talking to Dr. Steve, and Dr. Steve's like, oh, so the aliens built the pyramids, or maybe it was men from Atlantis.
Yeah.
And we later learn that it's both.
Yeah.
Yeah, either that was a real strong coincidence in the writing, or they were already thinking through this to a couple years ahead.
They probably were starting the planning. I mean, we're still 3 seasons off before they start the storyline that leads to Atlantis.
I think so.
2.5. Yep.
But they were probably at this point they were starting to throw around the pitches for the spinoff.
Yep.
Especially of course, this is 4th season, so there's one more season on Showtime, and then it would go to Sci-Fi. But they were probably already thinking Sci-Fi's looking at us. They're looking at taking us over by this time. Who knows?
Mm-hmm.
So it probably wasn't a coincidence. Or maybe this was the storyline that gave them the hey, we could do something about that.
Yeah.
Like you said, Lisa, this was probably one of the better Daniel only stories. And really got to focus on him and show his character and again what he was doing and everything, and that was kind of fun. Of course, I hate to say it, but what kind of took me out of the suspension of belief is this guy who's been gone for 5 years just shows up and they let him just have run of the facility.
Yeah.
He can go and go down to the relics room there and start digging through and no problem. Go ahead and take it with you back to Colorado. By the way,
he took it out of the museum.
Yeah, I mean, it didn't seem like security was that tight there to begin with, but with all the murders,
he's in Chicago because that's where the all these relics were, and then the next scene he's in Colorado Springs at the SGC.
Right.
And then he's back
in Chicago. And he's back at SGC. Boy, I'd love to see his frequent flyer miles.
I actually looked at a map. I'm like, I don't think those are that close.
No, they're really not.
Flights, but
yeah. But it's not like you can just, 2-3 hour drive or something like that.
No. And then at the end, they're off to they're off to the great Pacific Northwest sand dunes of Egypt.
That's right.
Yeah.
I was like, this desert looks really, really damp. And there's like all these like shrubs and stuff growing in the sand. And I'm like,
I really wonder where they would have found to film that. But
sand dunes, yeah.
Yeah.
Was there actually sand dunes?
Yeah. On a beach.
That's okay, because they had Dr. Janet Fraser as their backup.
Yeah, that was news to her too. Like Hammond's like, and I want you to take Dr. Fraser, and her face is like, it's just like, oh, okay, I'm going too, I guess.
I wonder if this was like a practical issue with filming where, they had the other ones were just for a short time for this particular episode. And so, you're here for the full episode anyways, so we're going to send you.
Yeah. And rather than bring in some SG-2, SG-3, other people, it's like,
right.
No, let's just, we got Fraser here. She's good.
Or try to film that scene around Richard Dean Anderson's or Christopher Judge's schedule. They just like, they're not available for most of this episode, so we'll take who we've got. But at least Janet got to leave the SGC, so that was nice.
And I think this was her first real we'll say, dangerous mission that she's
Mhm.
joined them on.
Her first
Yeah, 'cause
field mission, yeah.
She's gone through the gate.
Hmm.
She's
Yeah.
done medical stuff through the gate a couple of times before this,
Right.
but it was never anything where she was in danger or anything like that.
Yeah, not as a full-fledged, I don't know, you're going to get ribbon deviced.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
she gets to do an alien autopsy too.
That's true.
Yeah.
And that was actually
Got
kind of
cut open
gross.
a Goa'uld. Yep.
Ooh. But they pull away from that. But it is that was kind of and that's as they're figuring out, they do the MRI and they see the Goa'uld in the canopic jar, and then they're like,
Hmm.
oh, this thing's very squishy for something that should have died 10,000 years ago or whatever, 5,000 years ago. And nice callback to Seth too.
Yeah.
There and
Him
then
in Raw.
Yep. Daniel gets to list all the Goa'ulds that they've killed to Osiris at the end.
Yeah,
They
exactly.
left out Apophis because they've killed Apophis how many times now?
Yeah, but I think
I mean,
they know he's alive at this again, or
yeah. But
yeah, they
it's,
know he's still around.
but
They
it's
know he's
happened.
still out
I
there
mean, you could say an Apophis 3 times.
somewhere. Yeah.
yeah,
We just can't
So
keep him
far.
dead.
yeah.
Yeah, and who didn't love Teal'c and Jack's fishing clothes?
Oh, yeah.
They were pretty good. Yeah,
They did a good job of that, even though.
Teal'c wasn't too impressed, but that was so much fun. He kept getting swatted by mosquitoes.
yeah.
I know that feeling. I feel that pain.
I tell you, Christopher Judge and his physical humor. I mean, he does such a great job.
Well, did you notice that, like, when they first show him, Jack is reeling in and Teal'c is just dragging the bobber through the water. He's not even like cast out.
Yeah.
He's just like, I'm done with this.
And then Dr. Jackson calls him, and you hear him say, "We have caught nothing. We are fishing." Because
Yeah.
Jack said the whole point is not to catch fish; it's to fish.
I love
Yeah.
that line. They call it fishing, not catching. Is
Yeah.
kind of the variant I always will use.
And then he's like, "Do you need me? I can come back."
Yeah, please.
Please. It's like when you're in a meeting you don't want to be in, right? You're like, "Oh,
Oh, I got to go answer this. I'll be back in never.
Well, even the fact that he's standing up, Jackson is in his lounger chair or whatever, casting away, and Teal'c's just like, I'm not even going to sit down because
Yeah.
it's an
Just not
active
accurate.
I'm not committed to this.
Of course, we see that cabin again.
Mhm.
Yep.
We'll see it every once in a while. We'll get to see it, and not even sure there's fish in this lake.
That's right. Yeah. It is fun because that cabin is one of those locations in around Vancouver that pops up in so many shows that are filmed in
Mhm.
Vancouver.
Yeah.
And most recently, I know a show y'all, I'm sure, do not watch, Virgin River, that it turned out that the cabin is used as the main character's cabin. And this last season, or maybe it was the season before, they actually went out on the lake behind the cabin.
Oh,
And
wow.
it was so funny because when they first showed it, I was like, oh my gosh, I know that cabin. Yeah. And then I look it up and I see that it's been used in so many shows.
So is it just a cabin that's owned by the studios, or is it like
No.
some person owns it that
Rents it out.
just has an agreement?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. It's just rented out in a ton of shows. I think
Yeah,
a
we
lot of, I don't know if that just happens a lot in that area because they film so many shows.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
Should
very
see if it's
recognizable.
available as an Airbnb. We could have a
Yeah.
meetup there.
Yeah.
That
That'd
would be
cool,
funny.
actually.
Sitting out on the lake with our fishing poles and the chairs.
Hey, we
That
could
would
do
be a lot
that.
of fun.
Actually, it would be kind of fun. Of course, Vancouver's a little closer to me than it is to either of you. So
That's okay. I have frequent
Yeah.
flyer miles. Well, I'll go.
there you go. I could I could drive there. It's not that far. I almost kind of get the feeling that there's a lot of those relics they had on the table where they raided some prop
Yeah.
office. It's just random stuff sitting there, and then of course you had the 2 jars and the amulet, which were the key objects. Those were the MacGuffins that for the
Yeah.
episode. But just there's a lot of it that looked like it might have been just whatever relics they could find that looked particularly Egyptian.
And they looked really good for having been at the bottom of the ocean for 70 years too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they
it's
said
like,
they
well,
were sealed in crates, but water's over 70 years.
Yeah,
is
and
gonna get
there's all
into
these
the crates.
there's all these like cloth, they wrapped in cloth that looks very dry and not you know.
They've been cleaned.
Yeah.
What'd you think about the, what do you want to call it? Like a Naquita finder?
Yeah.
Yeah.
In the jar. Oh, the Naquita detector.
Like,
yeah, the little.
Naquita detector.
The early GPS, the earlier sport
Exactly.
GPSs? That's what it looked like. You know, just a little, and it probably was. It's probably something like that, you know.
No, I mean it's
stud finder or something like that, you know.
I mean, it's radioactive. It's not from this Earth, so it has to give off a pretty unique signature, right? So
I think it's the first time we've seen that, right?
Yeah.
I thought you meant like the little Naquita Energizer battery inside the canopic jar that, like, you know, shocks the water, which is a good callback, because they've established that the Goa'uld in their little, you know, whenever you put them in a jar, you need to zap it with some electricity. Otherwise, when they were trying to keep Junior alive at some point.
Yeah.
Actually, I really liked that as a plot thread, was that that the Goa'uld could survive without a host in these jars for.
Right.
I mean, they never said exactly how long, but thousands of years, presumably.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, that was kind of cool. I liked that.
Well, and I wonder if it's the same kind of fluid where when we see on Chulak where they had the big jar of them young Goa'uld larva that Daniel shoots up.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if it's the same kind of fluid.
Well,
this was specifically a sedative,
right?
It's like a stasis fluid, so that's why they pump the juice into those darts and
that's true. That's true.
Send Action Fraser
in
to deal with the Goa'uld.
Did anyone come up with their own theory or headcanon about what happened between Osiris and Seth that caused this big rift and made them be Isis and Osiris put in these jars? Because they don't tell us, and I don't think we ever know.
No, but Goa'uld can be petty, right? So, and Seth, he liked to have cults. He was the cult leader dude.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't know if Osiris and Isis were, you know, I don't know. Maybe he just found it I don't know, just found it distasteful or something, you know, not acting in the way a god should act.
So, at least according to the wiki, the Stargate wiki, is they had they tried to fight against Ra. They tried to overthrow Ra, and they were defeated, and that's why they were put into the jars by Ra, not by Seth.
Okay. They're the original Tok'ra then, I guess.
In a way, just not good Tok'ra.
Yeah.
Right.
So, but that comes from, you know, there's the one of the role-playing game systems, the official role-playing game systems. So that's not quite as canonical as say the series, but still, it makes sense. It kind of fits that they'd try to take control and get ejected from their hosts, removed from their hosts.
Yeah, one thing I did like is how Dr. Steve, like, we think he's the Goa'uld traveling, you know, to Egypt. He's stealing the amulet and you know, unlocks the you know, the big control panel, and it turns out he's just doing it because he wants to discover something.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
and he's just a jerk.
Yeah. I'm glad that he didn't die, though. That's kind of.
Well, he and Daniel had such a great rivalry.
Yeah.
I mean, it felt, actually, I really liked his character. It felt like very natural, the two of them. And you could see the three of them having gone through school together and then worked together. That, you know.
And they were there, you know, until Daniel went off the deep end in his mind, in Steven's mind, that they would have been friends and, you know, hung out together, you know, the three amigos there, you know, and then Daniel goes, you know, figures something out about, you know, Egyptians and gods and all that stuff. And
then the professor, Dr. Jordan, you know, he was the kind of the star pupil who left. And, you know, I could just see that. I think everyone can kind of relate to that kind of relationship where, you know, even though they're gone, a little bit of jealousy, a little bit of resentment that, you know, the parent or whoever you know, still wants them to come home and wants them to do good.
And I did like how Daniel's motivation for leaving was that he didn't want to bring, you know, ignominy and shame upon his professor once he started, you know, realizing that his theories were outside the mainstream. So
I thought it was because What's-Her-Face picked him up in the limo with the rain and drove him to Cheyenne Mountain.
Oh, yeah.
Well,
he left that
yeah.
conference straight and went to Cheyenne Mountain
That's right, in the movie, yeah.
in the movie.
Well, no, in the movie, he got
Yeah.
dropped back off by the side of the by the side of the road again in the rain, but they gave him tickets.
That's true. He had to get himself there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because she had the Air Force, Chevy car, nondescript blue Air Force Chevy car that she was in, and he got in. They had the conversation, and then the officer was the Air Force officer was like, "Get out, get out back in the rain."
Right.
Everything you own is soaked, but you can't ride with me. But then eventually he got there. So
He got there. Yeah, pretty quickly.
but yeah, that's when he kind of dropped off the face of the earth. And that would make sense. This is the 4th season of SG-1, and they kept saying it was 5 years.
Yep.
Well, he was on in between the movie and the first season. He was on Abydos for a year.
Right.
Yeah, about a year and a half. Yep.
Okay, can we talk about the fact that this is his second love interest that has gotten taken over by a Goa'uld?
Yeah, he doesn't have a good reputation for that, does he?
Yeah, and then you've got to think about the writers, and they're sitting in a room, and they're like, "Oh, we could do it again."
Well, which is worse? Which is worse? Having your love interest getting taken over by Goa'uld, or having love interests that are completely, totally boring men?
Yeah.
Sam doesn't have a good reputation for
she doesn't.
love interest either.
Yeah, and I mean, it sounded like Daniel and Sarah had pretty definitively ended it.
Yeah,
too.
poorly.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they were acting all, interested and.
Well, that's what I said in the summer. Rekindling the interest. I think had she not been taken over by Osiris,
except
there
for
probably
the
would have
whole
been
Goa'uld
something
thing.
there.
Yeah.
That whole Goa'uld thing,
Yeah.
or if the Goa'uld thing had stayed, dormant for a little bit longer, there might have been something there.
Right.
But
Right. Or if it had gone to Steven,
yeah, exactly.
What kind of spaceship was that? Like when the ground opens up and it looks kind of like a mothership, but it's smaller, but it's not a cargo vessel, and then it has this weird thing coming off the bottom.
Well, I figured it was a 10,000-year-old spaceship.
Okay.
9,000-year-old spaceship. It's it's an older version. Older
Oh, okay.
Old
Yeah.
model.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. That was before they developed the really big ones.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was
Kinda
kind of
cool.
weird. It had that little spike coming off the bottom of it that just kind of grew out of it for whatever reason.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't think we see that look again.
No,
Do
I don't.
we?
No,
I don't
think
remember
so.
ever seeing it. I think it's the only time we've ever seen it because the next time we see Osiris, she's much more well established and
Mm-hmm.
so-
Mhm.
And Daniel admits that he's getting used to being zapped by the ribbon device. I think this is his 4th or 5th time now. Going back to the movie, even.
Michael
that's
Shanks
right.
does such a great job every time he gets shocked, and he's flexing his hands and he's cringing and just twitching, and he does such a great job acting that recovery from the ribbon device.
Mhm.
Yeah.
This time he had the presence of mind to stab her with a dart.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, they know that the shield doesn't work if it's done like that instead of thrown at them or something like that.
Right. Which kind of begs the question why Carter was emptying her gun at the rings.
Yeah.
Because
And why she waited so long to do it, too.
don't we know that you can't do that? When the
Yeah.
rings are active, you can't. Can you shoot
No,
through them?
I thought something could go between the rings,
Yeah, she just couldn't get a shot
just
between
couldn't.
them.
but
yeah.
it's so narrow from the distance that she wasn't
Yeah.
able to get a clear
Okay.
shot, I guess.
Okay.
Or hoping she at least could, do something. And that could just be frustration too of just, empty clip because you can.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Need to do something.
Yeah, I gave up working on my motorcycle for this.
Yeah, exactly.
I like the way she dismissed Siler.
Well, I
Like
think
he's all working. She takes a call and she's just like, that'll be all.
Yeah.
so. Are we shipping Sam and Siler now,
No.
or because
No. Other than maybe a common interest of motorcycles.
motorcycles?
Now they didn't ever say, was this her motorcycle or his? I would assume it was hers because it was in her lab, but
Yeah,
Yeah. And the
We
way
never
that
see
she
her.
told him, thank you for your help and dismissed him. So you
Yeah.
assume it was hers.
And he's
Well,
like, but,
I mean,
but
that's
it's my
because he's
motorcycle.
enlisted. She's officer. She can do that.
That's true.
Yeah. You can order him to work on your motorcycle.
It's probably been done.
Oh, man.
You hear stories online. You go like to the Air Force subreddit, and they're talking about like Air Force guys who'd been ordered by their officers to wash their cars, detail their cars, stuff like that.
Oh,
I guarantee you
gosh.
stuff like that happens. Not supposed to. That's an abuse of authority, but it does happen. I think this looked more mutual. They wanted to play with a motorcycle.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Tinker
Something
with a
that couldn't
motorcycle.
electrocute him for a change.
I'm surprised he didn't get injured in that little
Yeah.
bit we saw him.
That would have been so funny if you'd been shocked by the spark plug or something like that. They tried to crank it over at that moment.
Oh my God.
Which is interesting because the first time we see Dan Shea, when he became Richard Dean Anderson's stuntman on MacGyver, I think it was season 4, he actually does have a motorcycle in that in that one little brief scene that he's in. They have him in a couple different scenes and stuff. So maybe he's a motorcycle guy.
Maybe. Yeah.
And I think didn't he have to say the S? Because he always has a trouble with
Yeah.
S, and then you have to say like when Sam said you can go now, it's like okay, sure,
Yeah.
something like that.
They always give him the S words.
That's funny.
But yeah, I like this episode. It it starts off kind of slow, and you're like, are we going to spend the whole episode in Chicago, or now we're back in Shan Mountain, and then suddenly we're in Egypt, and then suddenly, we're in a temple, and there's a spaceship. So that part's kind of cool.
When you think about it, it was an Earth-based episode.
Yeah.
And it had a different feel to me than a lot of them that we've run across. Like the team running around. Where were we last time? Montana?
Yep.
Point of no return. This again, they weren't all in the same room. They weren't all doing something together. It was kind of back and forth. And I don't know. I liked it. I liked that it was a little mystery. But I will say, I can't remember if I knew Osiris was Sarah from the get-go, because this episode, Showtime spoiled.
Oh, really?
You can go back and look at it online. The promo they showed for this episode was Osiris, Sarah, ribbon device, shooting them across the room.
Funny.
Oh, man.
Which is the end of the episode.
Yeah.
And so if you go back and look, that was something they said that was the first time that the network did that to them. Not the last time. So I can't remember if I was surprised because I had Showtime and that's where I watched it. So I probably knew that already.
One nice thing about being able to watch these shows, binging like this after years, is you don't have to worry about them spoiling something in the teasers. You just don't watch the teasers,
That's right. There's no commercials on the next episode of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some shows will do, like Doctor Who, for the new Who will do that, where they'll still have, or they used to. I don't know if they still do, but if you watch it online streaming, they'll still have the next episode teaser at the end of the episode. But of course, you can just stop it and not worry about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, do we have some other languages, Lisa?
I am passing that off to Victor because he's going to do it with a twist.
Oh, yeah. So we had some comments, maybe doing them in the original language, and then you can hear us all murder a foreign language or two. So
I do, as you'll find in feedback, I do it bad enough with English names. I don't need to do it on other languages. So
yeah.
So let's see what we can do here. So in French, la malédiction, the curse.
That's not too bad.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. In Italian, il vaso di Isilde, Isis's jar. In Spanish, la maldición, which is the curse. In Czech, kletba, which is curse. Not the curse, just regular curse. In Hungarian, ez atak, the curse. And in German, der Rückkehr der Osiris, the return of Osiris, which...
No, you didn't say it angry enough.
Der Rückkehr der Osiris!
There you go.
There you go.
I love that video. So it's sets of videos where it's different languages, butterfly.
Yeah.
Spanish and French sound very romantic, and then butterfly, what the word is, but Flugenbird or whatever it was,
Yeah.
Which, yes, technically it is the return of Osiris, but it's the first time they've ever been on the show.
That's true.
Yeah.
But kind of jump into the end there again.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, again, not very creative with not very creative with their titles in German.
Yeah. Well,
But-
I applaud you, Victor.
Thanks.
I have no idea if you said those correctly or incorrectly.
I'm
the
sure
Spanish, the Spanish sound
they'll let
pretty,
us know.
pretty good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Spanish and French sound pretty good to my untrained ear, but other
And
than
then-
that,
Yeah. And then Italian, Isis's jar, which is, 5 minutes of screen time, and, Isis is dead. But
That's
yeah,
true.
that's not even the important one.
yeah.
No, well, that's the
The
one that
death of
they
Isis.
got to cut
Yeah.
open,
Dissect.
dissect. So there you go.
Yeah.
Maybe
But,
it made an
the
impression
important
on
one was
them.
Osiris's jar, but
Yeah.
that got blown up in the accident, quote unquote.
Yeah.
So, well, as I said, we do have some feedback, and this feedback is directed towards me. Susan Gardner 19 on Twitter says, Father Cory, with all respect, please learn that Joel Malzati's name is pronounced Malazi. Malazi. Keep trying.
Yes.
There you
No
go.
promises. Now, to be fair, if you've listened to other secrets of podcasts I'm on, such as Doctor Who and Star Trek, it's kind of become a running joke to purposely mispronounce or change the names of characters. Calling I can't remember even the guy's name from Picard, but we'd call him Elrond.
Oh,
You know,
yes.
it was
the elf,
the
the
Romulan-
Romulan elf. Yeah.
Yeah, we'd call him Elrond instead of whatever his name was. So, Susan, I promise you, I'll try Malasi, not whatever I end up coming up with when I try to remember his name off the top of my head, which is usually what happens. So, no, I appreciate the feedback, and we'll try. We don't want to insult. We're not trying to be crude or anything like that. It's just it happens.
Yeah.
Now, if we get feedback about how the pronunciations went on the titles,
Mhm.
Yeah.
episode
then-
titles,
Yeah, we want to
Yes,
hear that.
that's helpful.
We want to hear
Yeah,
your
let
guys'
us-
take.
much.
Yeah. If there are any native Czech speakers, just
Yeah.
let me know, because that's the one I thought I nailed. But if I didn't, just let me know.
Yeah. And if you record it, maybe we'll figure out a way to
Oh.
bring them in too. If you want to try to record one of the episodes, whether it's one we've already done or one that we've got coming up, let us know. Be kind of fun to bring other people's voices in pronouncing those titles. So we can do that. We have the technology.
Indeed.
So we'd like to take a moment now to thank our patrons who make it possible for us to create the secrets of Stargate, including Tom N., Donald Y., John L., Robert C., and Rick M. Their generous donations at sqpn.com/give make it possible for us to continue the secrets of Stargate and all our shows here at StarQuest. You can join them by visiting sqpn.com/give. Be sure to follow the show on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or other great podcast apps. Stay away from the lesser ones, but the great podcast apps. Those are the ones we want you to follow us on. We're also on YouTube, where you can watch our shows at youtube.com/StarQuestMedia. Also, if you enjoy our shows, share them with your friends. The best way we can grow our network and grow our audience is if you share the shows that you enjoy, whether it is the Secrets of Stargate or the other SQPN shows with your friends. So please do share them. Send them links and say, hey, check out these idiots. I mean, these great people on the Secrets of Stargate. To find our previous episodes of Secret of Stargate and to send feedback, please visit sqpn.com/Stargate. And our email is stargate@sqpn.com. You can follow StarQuest on social media at facebook.com/StarQuestMedia or on Twitter @SQPN. We'll be back next time when we'll be discussing the Serpent's Venom, which is the next episode of SG-1. Until then, Lisa Jones, thank you for joining me in the Secrets of Stargate.
Thanks, Father Cory.
And Victor Lambs, thank you as well.
Thanks, Father Cory. And if you need me, I'll be in the back cataloging the Polynesian death masks.
Oh, sounds like fun.
Yep.
And once again, I'm Father Cory Sticha. Thank you for listening to the Secrets of Stargate on StarQuest.
Anyway, I'm sorry, but that just happens to be how I feel about it. What do you think?